This is the Microsoft Surface Duo, a folding dual display smartphone that's currently available for a whopping $1,400. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look at this phone from an iPhone user perspective to see what it has to offer.
Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications whenever we share a video.
Yes, I know. This is an Apple-centric channel, and a lot of you Apple followers out there might not think that folding Android phones are something that you should really care about. But for me personally, I really feel that it's time to start paying more attention to what's going on in the smartphone industry outside of the Apple bubble, because some interesting things are really happening. Not to mention, Apple filed a few patents earlier this year for a couple of different folding style devices. One that bears resemblance to the Samsung Galaxy Fold and the Galaxy Z Fold 2, which we'll take a look at the latter coming later this week. And the other is more of a dual iPad or a Microsoft Surface Duo style design. Patents do not equal a guarantee whatsoever that either one of those ideas will come to fruition. But Apple certainly seems to think that there's a future at least looking into and investing in when it comes to foldable devices, and I agree with that sentiment. When you first pick up a Surface Duo, there is one big reason why in every video you might watch or in every article you might read, everyone mentions how incredibly well designed and built this device really is. The hinge is incredible. There's really no other way to put it. It feels really premium all around, and it looks like a premium, futuristic device. But if Microsoft botched the hinge and made it unreliable and janky, then this phone would be an immediate flop. But thankfully, all of those years of concepts and hard work really paid off. This thing is perfect when it comes to design. Not to mention the rest of the design of the phone, how thin these two panels are, and how thin the device is really just all together. Even when you sandwich both displays back together and kind of have it closed, it's still pretty thin, all things considered. Unfortunately, the hinge being the best part might not feel like a good sign for the rest of the phone, and you would be mostly correct with that sentiment. The style, design, engineering, it's all an A+, but the biggest flaw that plagues the Duo is software. This really goes to show you that you can have the best looking, feeling, and built phone on the market, but if the software isn't any good, then the rest of the stuff listed before just doesn't really matter. The Surface Duo runs Android 10 with Microsoft's little skin kind of draped over it, and while you still get a lot of the benefits that Android has to offer, and a few key features added by Microsoft in order to adapt to having dual displays, the rest of the OS is just not optimized, or it feels like it's even designed to be close to fitting something of this form factor. The good news is, after its release, software could be easily improved, and I'm hoping Microsoft and Google figure out a way to make this OS feel more like it's specifically designed to accommodate a dual display phone. With that said, there are a few benefits to having a device like this over a traditional smartphone, and a lot of that fits into the productivity category. There's no question that the Surface Duo was designed for the business professional in mind, or one who just eats, breathes, and sleeps productivity. You can set specific apps to open with each other at just one press, like YouTube and an internet browser, OneNote and Outlook, etc. This does open up the door to limitless multitasking options. Obviously, when you're using the Surface Duo and its dual displays, the main focus would be having two different apps or two different functions or whatever you might be doing on each display. But you can extend one application across both screens if you want to. But again, the software is not always optimized for this scenario. I do think the Surface Duo makes interacting with your phone, getting work done, and consuming content more enjoyable because it's new and it's fresh and it's different from just traditional form factors. But for the everyday smartphone user, and I'm going to throw myself into this mix even though I don't always feel like I'm a traditional smartphone user just because of my job, but I more often find myself folding that second display behind and just wanting to use the phone mostly with, a traditional experience in mind. It just feels more natural for me to use the phone that way. Holding your phone like a book is not always ideal, nor is it really always comfortable for long periods of time. There is another mode that you can do, and you can just basically fold it halfway and put it down on a desk or any flat surface, and it's kind of like a little laptop mode, and you can basically interact with the bottom screen for input. As an iPhone user, if this device ran iOS, and I feel like a lot of you out there would say, oh, well, if Apple made it, you would think differently. And maybe I would, but I don't know. It's really hard to tell if just changing the software, I definitely feel like it would be a better experience because I'm not a fan of how Android is implementing and using dual displays right now, or how Microsoft kind of made their first attempt at it. It could always get better, but I feel like, and I could be biased, that Apple would do a better job. But that doesn't mean that I would really prefer this form factor. Now, folding phones like the Galaxy Z Fold 2, which again we're going to take a look at later this week, where there's a nice full display in a traditional form factor, but then you can open it up to more of a tablet style device and get much more screen real estate when you need it at any time, seems like a more useful route to go down rather than basically opening up your phone and immediately getting two displays in your face and deciding whether or not you really need to use two displays at that time, in which my case I ultimately just resort back to just wanting to use one for most of my use case. Overall, I think it's hard for me to come up with a final verdict about the Surface Duo because I really, really like the innovation, the direction, and certainly the engineering that Microsoft put into this device. I appreciate everything they did, but I'm not sure this device is just going to be super useful to 90% of the population out there that's looking at something like this and is intrigued by something like this. Not to mention the lack of effort put into the cameras. I mean, there's one camera right here that you're going to use for your front and I guess rear shooter, and there's a janky limited software experience and how you get that to work. And it's not even good. The pictures are just flat out not good. So not to mention that, these large top and bottom bezels that really kind of outdate the look and design in a world where smartphones are trying to decrease the bezels and go all display as much as possible. And oh, by the way, factor in that you're running last year's specifications and hardware, and the phone is also $1,400, so maybe it's not quite there yet. But of course, would love to know your thoughts about this device in the comments section down below. Is this something that you want Apple to do? You know, they have a couple of patents out there. One of them is kind of like this, but it's more specific to iPads. Would you be more intrigued by seeing Apple doing something like this? Or do you want a Galaxy Fold? Or do you think they should just kind of stay away from folding devices in general? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.